So we'll move now to it is actually part 2 of the same panel, and it is going to be chaired by Ms. Wiam Namo. I think this is my second time I say that, but this time I think I'm right. No, okay. So if I can now give the floor to Ms. Wiam Namo, who is going to introduce her panelists and of course herself too. Please.
Hello, everyone. It is such an honor to be here today among these amazing women and men. And thank you very much, Dr. Kamal Abdel Malik, and for Andromeda Publishing for putting this online conference, international online conference together that celebrates Arab women, very important topic. Again, I'm so excited that I'm among all these beautiful women, including today, the next speaker, Professor Nagwa Soliman.
Yes, thank you.
She is a professor at the British University in Egypt, and her talk is going to be about Fatma Mernissi's double critique of Arab and Western views on women.
Hello, thank you very much. It's my honor to be here in this prestigious conference, and I'm going to share my screen. I just want to open up the PowerPoint. One second. Can you see my PowerPoint, or it's not shared?
No,
okay.
It's not yet.
No, okay. I will save it once again on my desktop. Okay, let me close it and then share.
Okay, I think you're getting there.
All right. I'll just close this one. All right. 1 minute. I'll stop it and then I'll share it once again. 1 minute.
You were doing well. What happened?
I had it with me. One second. I'm gonna open up my PowerPoint here. Just a second.
Okay, remember you can do it. You're Egyptian.
Thank you. I'm sure. I guess it's not the first time that I share the.
Okay.
It is open. Okay, can you see it now? Or not yet?
No, I can see myself only.
All right, let me share the screen. Here it is. Now I believe you can see it, right?
Yes.
Has it reached you?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
All right, very good. I'll just put the slideshow. All right. My topic is about the double perspective, the Western and the Arab views on women, and I'm going to start with my outline. I'll first give a brief introduction about Fatma Mernissi, and then I'm going to discuss 5 of her written work, starting with Beyond the Veil, that she published in 1975, moving on to The Veil in the Middle East in 1991. Then thirdly, I'll talk about Doing Daily Battle, moving on to Shahrazad Goes West. And last but not least, her autobiography, fictive memoir, that's titled Dreams of Trespass, that she published in 1994. Okay, A brief introduction. Fatma Mernissi was born in 1940 and she died 2015. She pursued her graduate studies in the US and took her PhD in sociology from the University of Brandeis. Okay, so she also witnessed the first Moroccan women's movement, which occurred between 1960s to 1970s. And the first women's movement belonged to the old, they had to accept the old colonial system, which actually was hostile and against the Western views of equality and modernity, especially with regards to family and women. Then she also witnessed the second Moroccan women's movement, which occurred in the 1980s. And this movement focused mainly on alleviating women's illiteracy, poverty, and that women get they attain the right of political participation. We'll start with Beyond the Veil. It was published in 1975. In it, she discusses patriarchy, and she is able to prove that it not only exists in Islam but also in the colonial West. She mentions in Beyond the Veil, and I quote, patriarchy, this tradition reflects the general pattern prevailing in both East and West, when the issue is who is more civilized than whom. In this book, I'm not concerned with contrasting the way women are treated in the Muslim East with the way they are treated in the Christian West. I believe that sexual inequality is the basis of both systems. She also, in this classic study, she mentioned that the French colonizer was not interested in women's education. This is actually a myth, and that the Nationalist Party in Morocco was the one who actually initialized the call for women's education. But then retreated because of the Eurocentric French modernization. There was this fear that the colonizer will come and destruct their religion, Islam, and under the pretext of women's emancipation. So in other words, the French colonizer did not bring in education to women nor emancipation. The French occupation actually increased misogyny towards women. And Mernissi states in Beyond the Veil, legal articles on women's obligations, contracts concerning financial transactions, crimes of passion are gifts of super patriarchal French civilization and actually contradicts Islam's principles of Sharia. Moving on to another point, which is that colonization actually devalued women's rural and domestic labor, giving the pretext that this belongs to it's a sign of backwardness. Okay, so that this shows that with technology, why have women working in the rural and labor? So this made the Muslim patriarch actually oppress women more and this was given actually legalization from the colonizers administrators, that they do not want the colonizer. Pretext was we don't want to interfere with the country's culture, religion, and ethics. So we want to leave the country's tradition as is. And so the Muslim patriarch found himself robbed out of his land, and women who were working in the rural land, they were no longer working. So actually, instead of helping women become emancipated, the opposite actually happened. And Mernissi believes that women's emancipation actually is an economic issue and it's not religious. And she mentions that if you're going to emancipate women, then you will need to provide women with employment, you'll need to provide women with childcare, with transportation. So using religion as an excuse to stop women from becoming emancipated is not right, according to Mernissi. In Beyond the Veil, Western sexual inequality and the belief of women's biological inferiority. Yes, actually, Mernissi believed that in Islam, women were not regarded as inferior. On the contrary, they were regarded powerful, and that they have what is called in Arabic fitna. Fitna is the ability to seduce men, and therefore it's a must that they should be segregated and they should remain in the household in their own sphere, away from men, so as not to seduce them. In Mernissi in Beyond the Veil contrast this with the Western view of women, and according to Sigmund Freud, he argues that anatomy is destiny, and by anatomy is destiny, Freud argues that in the sense that women's psychology is naturally governed by biology, and the latter, which is biology, is responsible for selecting the kind of task that fits her anatomy. And the tasks are, of course, you all know, household and private spaces are commonly believed as the natural domicile for women, while public world is a prerogative and an appropriate space for males, and that's according to El Bubikri, page 29. Okay, so also we have Simone de Beauvoir asserting also the biological differences between male and female, and this cannot be, argued. There are differences in biology, of course, between a male and a female, but Simone de Beauvoir believes that gender differences is imposed socially, culturally and politically by what? By the creation of masculine and feminine stereotypes. So the stereotyping of males and female is what is imposed, not the biological. And okay, so also I already talked about women's power and the danger of fitna. There is another point which Mernissi referred to, is silencing of women. So the French colonization created the condition of the idealization of women by colonists and colonized, here referring to Moroccan men. They're both alike in their ideology of women and their structural silencing. So they're viewed as passive creatures that should not have should not express their views, should keep silence, should only listen to the male figure. Why? Because he's a patriarch and he knows better. So it helped unify native men's attitude towards women, as well as pave the way for the intrusion of religion in the political arena. Okay. Now, before moving on to the veil and the male elite, I just want to mention that with Mernissi's attacks on Islam and its accusing Islam of misogyny, this was met with harsh accusations of betrayal of her religion. People said just because she spent some time in the US, so now she's espoused and she goes for the Western ideas and values, and especially that in the Beyond the Veil, her first classic study, she attacked Islam, mentioning that the West is best for women's liberty and equality. When she was attacked that she's betraying her own religion, this made her change her strategy. So her strategy in the previous classic study, it was calling for the reconstruction paradigm of Islam. She had to tone down her harsh criticism of Islam to a more modest reformist agenda. So what did she do? She made a thorough historical reinvestigation of Islamic texts and the Prophet's hadith and mentioned that there should be Islamic reformation which endorses women's rights in Muslim societies, which does not necessitate the rejection of Islam. So she aimed in this book. Which book am I talking about? I'm talking about the veil and the male elite. She aimed at to reform the existing patriarchal system and attain Muslim women's rights while preserving the Islamic frame of reference. Okay, with the women's veil, Mernissi said the veil appeared. Why? Because Islam was going through an identity crisis, and she explains in her words by mentioning here. She says protecting women from change by veiling them and shutting them out of the world would have echoes of closing the community to protect it from the West. So we're afraid of the West. We don't want the Western ideology to come near our females. We want them to stay as is, not to be influenced by the Western ideas. And she believes, this is according to Odegier, he explained this hijab. He believes that it's three-dimensional. It has the visual, which is you're cutting off somebody out of sight. You want this female to disappear. It's spatial, meaning that remember, you have hudud, you have frontiers that you should never cross the line. And it's also an ethical issue with all due respect to ladies who are wearing the hijab. It's ethical. That means he believes that wearing the hijab, it makes it haram. That means that I am haram and that I have to cover myself up. I'm not, of course, here arguing with any Quranic verses against this or for this. I'm just presenting ideas of Fatma and Mernissi. So you have to cover the women and to make them disappear, and they have to remain in their private space, which is harem, so that they do not trespass into the male world. She compares in the veil and the male elite women's position with the Prophet Muhammad during his life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that women at that time, they were following their warrior husbands to war, encouraging them in battles, participating in debates, taking initiatives, and arguing for their rights. So, in other words, she's mentioning that Islam did not call for that, and it's because of the West and colonization that made this position of women decline. In doing daily battle, we talked about silencing women, okay? And this was imposed by patriarchy and by the Moroccan national state. So in this third nonfiction work, she wanted to, criticize the Western idea of how to regard the Moroccan woman. A Moroccan woman to a Western reader is the exotic other. She's unknown, right? She's silent. So what she did, Fatma Mernissi, was the book was about interviews that she conducted with normal Moroccan women who were suffering painfully from poverty, illiteracy, and sexual oppression. So when she interviewed them, it's as if she broke the silence that they were under, that was imposed. She broke their silence, made them talk, and wrote their confessions in this textbook. And then moving on to Shahrazad Goes West. Here she's attacking the faulty harem fantasy. And here, harem, when you think of harem, they are sexual, voluptuous, odalisque women laying in bath, waiting for their master. Okay, and so the harem to the West, represents a paradise, an exotic place populated by nude, voluptuous, dressed women, as perpetuated in the Orientalist literature and paintings. And what are they doing there? It's a place where females are captives and women have the freedom to only weave dreams within the four walls. She here is attacking the Western ideology. At the same time, she's attacking that. Once again, she goes back on the West and mentions what is called the size 6 harem. Mernissi argues in Shahrazad's West, the image of beauty in the West can hurt and humiliate a woman as much as the veil does. The power of the Western man resides in dictating what women should wear and how they should look, being frozen in the passive position of an object whose very existence depends on the eye of its beholder, turns educated, according to Mernissi, Western woman into a harem slave. I'd like to read to you the argument of Susan Friedman. She notes, while Muslim societies control the feared power of female sexuality that I referred to earlier as fitna through prohibitions on space and bodily display, where the veil, they put on the veil, Western culture, Mernissi argues, exercises a parallel control through women's internalized hatred, according to Friedman, of their bodies and their obsessive anxieties about weight and standards of beauty to which few can measure up to. But while Mernissi's point is well taken, it should not need a false story to be made effective. By false story here, Friedman is referring to the fact that obesity actually is a problem in the U.S. So as you see here, so she's not only as you see in her next book, she's attacking both. So there's double criticism of the Muslims, the Islam, patriarchy, and the West at the same time. Okay, we move on to Dreams of Trespass, and this is her fictive memoir autobiography. I've read that part of what she wrote is true, part of it is her fiction. Okay, so it's an autoethnography to discredit Western stereotyping of imperial and domestic harem. It's also an autoethnography to debunk the Arab Muslim patriarchy that prevents women's attainment of their human rights, inequality, and liberation. So I look at it in the form I'm analyzing this autobiography by picking characters and showing what she meant to do with displaying her characters in such a way from their words. So Fatima is the protagonist, and her mother sees French. She wanted to lure the audience, the Western audience, to read her autobiography. So she wanted to have characters in this autobiography that espouse the Western idea of harem, that the women there are imprisoned, waiting for the colonizer to save them and to take them out of their prison. So Fatima, the protagonist, and her mother see French invasion of Morocco as an outlet of change. Fatima imagines, from within the harem, the possibilities to make life enjoyable seemed infinite. The walls were going to disappear, and houses with glass ceilings were going to replace them. Imprisoned behind the walls, women walked around dreaming of frontierless horizons. So we see both Western Orientalist dogma and critique of Muslim patriarchy. But at the same time, these women, the Western Orientalist dogma sees them as imprisoned. Yes, she shows them as imprisoned. But let's see later on what other ideas are included. Fatima is shown as, going her education in Morocco, or what her mother teaches her and her grandmother teaches her, is that in Harim and in Morocco, there are hudud. Hudud meaning frontiers, and she, as a child, and she narrates this autobiography. When she was actually a child, she has to obey according to how what she was learned from her mother and grandmother. So Fatima rebels, and she exclaims to her grandmother, "Who is benefiting from a harem? What good can I do for our country, sitting here as a prisoner in this courtyard? Why are we deprived of education? Who created harem, and for what? Can anyone explain that to me?" So here we find harsh criticism of patriarchy and the harem institution. Now, Fatima's mother, on the other hand, also encouraged her and espoused the Western ideal. "I want you to become independent." So independence is equated with happiness and happy. "I want you to shine like moons." Okay, so here that once you leave the harem, Fatima, you're going to be independent and happy and shining like the moon. Fatima's mother states, "You're going to transform the world, aren't you? You're going to create a planet without walls and without frontiers, where the gatekeepers have off every day of the year." Okay, also Aunt Habiba.
Hello? Hello, Dr. Nagwa? It's frozen. Can you all hear her?
No,
Yes, I can hear.
no, it's frozen for me.
I can hear you, but not Nagwa.
Yeah, but not here. Dr.
Yeah.
Nagwa is gone. She's frozen.
Oh,
I think her network.
We can't hear her.
She's stuck at Harim.
yes.
Confined.
While we were waiting for her, let me just very quickly say that she left off at the word hudud, and hudud means borders. Oh, she's here already, but we cannot hear her. We cannot hear you.
Her mic is
Muted, maybe.
Your mic.
Sorry, I apologize. I was cut off. Okay. Yes, Professor Kamal, you had a comment?
Yeah. Just very quickly, you said hudud, borders, or you said actually frontiers. This is absolutely wonderful. May I add that also hudud in Islamic parlance means penalty for crossing these borders. Hudud also means penalty. I just wanted to say that. Go ahead.
Yes, hudud means okay. So
yes, al-had. Hududullah means the penalties of by the divine law when you cross these borders. So it's a wonderful word, full of meaning, a loaded word actually. It is the borders and penalty for crossing the borders. Go ahead.
Yes. So Aunt Habiba is interpreting what is happening, relying on religion, on the divine anger against men, and here it's against men. She tells Fatima, Allah had sent the northern armies, the French, to Morocco to punish the men. Why? For violating the hudud, protecting women. When you hurt a woman, you are violating Allah's sacred frontier. It's unlawful to hurt the weak. So again, she is referring to the biological differences between men and women, and that a woman is a weak creature, biologically speaking. So you're not supposed to hurt her by imprisoning her in the harem institution. Okay, I want to move on my PowerPoint. I don't know, it's frozen, the PowerPoint. Let me can I stop sharing and share once again? Could you bear with me? It's refusing to move.
Okay, we're gonna have to refer to Miss Golnaz.
Okay, please.
I'm sorry. That's.
I only have. Please, I'm gonna share it once again.
Okay, all right.
I only have.
I'm sorry.
I have a couple of. I swear, I'm not going to keep. I'm not going to keep you any longer. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to share it, not in the share screen, not in the, I mean the, I'll share it, I'll hold it here.
That's all right.
And then I'll go, I think I'll go to the one that we stopped. Here, let's say this one. Okay, we finished on, okay, Yasmina Fatima's other grandmother. Here comes the counter argument. Now, Yasmina Fatima's grandmother mentions, even I, as illiterate and bound by tradition as I am, have managed to squeeze some happiness out of this life. So the picture and portrayal of harem as women who are imprisoned, according to Fatma Mernissi, and unhappy. And I here remember Jana's portrayal of Princess Fawzia when she, the media showed her that she was very unhappy in her life. So here, Fatma Mernissi surprises the Western reader by mentioning, no, don't think, maybe what your thoughts about these ladies, maybe some of them are actually happy. Some of them feel that abiding by their religion and following their religion gives them ascendancy over the male patriarch, whether it's a husband, whether it's a, so they find their happiness and satisfaction in following their faith, their religion, the rules, okay, some of them. And Yasmina's grandmother also adds, yes, here she's criticizing the Western ladies when she mentions when a woman worked hard and was not making money, she was stuck in a harem, even though she did not see its walls. So here I have a critic named Abdu who says, is it the well-meaning but misguided working mother or housewife of Europe and America who, feeling sorry for those women of Islam as she looks up from the book, perhaps begins to notice the confining walls of her own anti-feminist world? The image reveals how easily one can internalize or construct a harem within. So maybe these women in the West are also suffering, even if they're not imprisoned in walls. Suffering in what way? They're working hard and not being paid money. They don't have equal salaries. The payment of males, Western males, are, of course, higher, and I'm not being simplistic, than females. So he's here suggesting perhaps living then in a place of explicit rules, like an actual physical harem, can be easier than living in an invisible one. Okay, then I'll move on to my following. I'm not going to take any longer. Okay, so even her teacher, Lala Tam, asks her, please don't question. So here we have the woman is silenced. Don't question the Quran verses. Just learn by heart what you've written on the Loha, what is written on the Loha. Okay, then her servant Nina, who was thrown in a well because she tried to escape from al-Hudud, she tells Fatima there are two kinds of creatures walking on Allah's earth, the powerful on one side and the powerless on the other. If you can't get out, you are on the powerless side. So here is an instigation for women to move and not to be passive and not to stay where they are. Then I just want to end here with this last character that influenced Shama. And this also is a criticism of the Western ideology of women, that they have to be targets of, I mean, they have to be a desirable object. They have to pose as desirable objects. When Shama, her cousin, tells her, my whole aim in life when I get out of the woods, I vow to myself that when I become a grown-up woman, so is she's talking about a famous lady in opera, I definitely would be affiliated with a theater of some sort. I would dazzle Arab crowds, neatly seated in rows and looking up at me. So again, she thinks that she's going to get out of the cage of harem, and she doesn't know that she'll fall into another cage of what? The stereotype Western or stereotype male ideal of a woman. She has to be a desirable object, and there's no other way. That's the best image of the woman that we have to aspire to pose as desirable objects, and that's it, nothing else. So I conclude my PowerPoint by mentioning that I talked about patriarchy, colonialism, Orientalist views, Islamic fundamentalists when they were harsh at her first book. I end also with Fatma Mernissi in preface, and of course here I mentioned Nawal Saadawi, that she was mentioned also in Dreams of Trespass, and she also would be present in Tama's theatrical performance. I'm going to also end with Mernissi's preface in The Veil and the Male Elite. She said, Muslim women can walk in the modern world with pride, knowing that the quest for dignity, democracy, human rights, for full participation in the political and social affairs of our country stems from no imported Western values, but is a true part of the Muslim tradition. And I end, of course, with Nawal Saadawi's 2 minutes. I'll just take 2 minutes of because I noticed that Professor earlier yesterday, Cook, she mentioned that the revolution in Egypt was ongoing. So I want here to present Nawal Saadawi. What is not a political revolution? I'll just take 3 minutes, that's all. Can you hear? Can you hear the video? No?
No,
you can't hear the video, the sound?
No, we always have a problem with the the sound. Yeah.
Let me see the video setting.
You can also add a link here on the chat.
Okay, I'll add the link to the video. Okay, no problem. Okay, here in this, she mentions her her experience with Tahrir Square, and she mentioned that she was dreaming of this revolution, and this her interpretation of the revolution was to remove oppression, the oppression, gender oppression, the inequality between men and women, discrimination between Copts and Muslims, all types of oppression, and that's how she sees the revolution, the emancipation of women. And here's my works cited page. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope I haven't taken more than my allotted time. Yes, any questions?
All right, let us all clap for
Thank
Dr.
you so
Nagwa.
much, Dr. Soliman. Are we, Dr. Kamal, are we just going to go ahead? Should I go into my talk, or do you?
Yes, I think so. I'm afraid we're going to be really late.